Hello. Welcome to Ask Us Anything Else. I'm Jonathan Pritchett, and along with me is
Braxton Hunter.
And today's Friday, so we are going to have a Q&A, but we are not going to be answering what for us is work-related questions. So being that we are 5 minutes late, I'm sure half the people that were going to tune into this tuned in and then tuned out and said, they're not even going to do it at all. So, but we are here, and we are going to take questions for the foreseeable future, as long as they are not related to anything that we have to do. We've probably both worked, it's Friday, so we're well over 60 hours this week of work.
That's probably the case.
Yeah. So,
but just so everyone knows, this was Dr. Pritchett's idea. So if it blows up, it's on him. I said to him, why would anyone want to hear us talk about anything or ask us anything not related to theology, apologetics, or the Bible? I mean, after all, that's our only use to anyone.
Yeah.
so I don't know what's going to happen.
Doesn't look like anyone wants to ask us anything anyway. So, but I thought maybe people would be somewhat curious as to want to know something else about us that they don't get from the show or get from anything related to what we do professionally or in our free time, which seems to relate to what we do professionally. So,
all right, well, let's begin with this, since nobody's in here yet, but someone will be watching this later. What, Dr. Pritchett, would you say? Let's get to know the mind of Dr. Pritchett here for a moment. What would you say are your favorite rock albums of all time?
Rock albums?
Mm-hmm. Not individual songs. Like, this album is as close to a masterpiece.
Oh, Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
Yeah. You?
Okay. It's a favorite of laser light shows at planetariums across the nation.
And the one in Evansville had it going on, and Misty and I went to go see the laser.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I mean, it was a great throwback to the early 80s where, they're not really lasers. They're just dots on the screen. But
yeah. Maybe put in the comments there, ask us any, the instructions basically for this. Would you say, what about me? What are my favorite albums?
What was your favorite?
Favorite singular album? It's got to be the Joshua Tree.
Of course.
Of course it does.
You too.
Yeah. So what we're doing here for anybody that's just coming in is we are answering questions not related to the Bible, theology, or apologetics. Now, I suppose you came up with this, Dr. Pritchett. So let's find out what the rules are. Could we say they could ask us something like, who is our favorite preacher, or who's our favorite author, even if it's a Christian author?
Sure.
We're not sucking the God out of this.
No.
We're just it's more of a, we have a lot of people that have told us that they tune in to watch Trinity Radio just because they like our back and forth, our banter. And so if anyone wants to ask anything about us as human beings, not as purveyors of, okay, here we go. Here's one for you, Dr. Pritchett. I'll read it to you. Is there any hope for the Razorbacks this fall?
No, come on. We've been terrible for years. It's been downhill since Petrino. But yeah, these non-conference games even get me nervous, Brian, because we haven't won all of them. You're supposed to win these things by 30 points or higher when you play teams outside of your conference. And we've actually lost to some of these non-conference games in recent years. And so, I have hope, of course, but I have more confidence that I'll see a UFO than I will see a Razorback SEC title. So
now, Brian, who asked that question, lives in North Little Rock, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So how big of a sports ball fan are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Let's get this correct. I'm not a sports fan. Okay. I'm not even a football fan. I am a SEC football fan. I don't watch all that other stuff that they call college football around the nation. Certainly don't watch professional sports because it's lame.
But you're aware that's a sport.
Yes, but I am a
You're
college.
You're a sports fan.
I'm a college SEC football fan, and it's got to be the SEC conference because everything else is. But yeah, and you're not at all.
I don't care a thing about any kind of sports ball. Now, when I was in middle school, I played basketball. I was 00 on our basketball team. I was really
fitting number.
I was probably the best, or one of the best that we had. And at that time, I watched. I think the San Antonio Spurs were my favorite team. But at that time, they had so many good players, and that was when Dennis Rodman was on their team and everything. It was just a show every time, to watch. But ever since then, I'm out.
And well, no, you weren't out. You played for the church, what, 2-3 seasons ago, and they actually
that was a train wreck.
They actually did let you play a couple of minutes per game, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you here's a sports story, since this is apparently turned into Sports Hour with
Braxton.
We got
a
Jonathon.
Roll Tide, so that would normally kill it.
When I played basketball as a middle school player, it was customary for, if you were a basketball player, to go with someone that was a cheerleader. Now, at that point, you couldn't even drive a car yet, so I don't know, you're not going anywhere, but we were going together. And there was this girl named Leah that I wanted to go with. And so I approached her and proposed this relationship. And she said, if you score in our next basketball game, then I'll go with you. And so when it was my time, this really happened. When it was my time, I played forward. I didn't play out at the 3-point line, but I went to the 3-point line and got the ball, and I took the shots. I can't remember that I actually did this, but I imagined myself looking over and winking at Leah as it was in the air. And it was a perfect shot, nothing but net. Perfect shot. And so my coach called me off the court, and I ran past him, didn't care what he had to say. And I went over to Leah, and I said, what do you think? And she said, well, it was a great shot. And I said, well, then what's wrong? She said, I don't want to tell you. I said, come on, what's wrong? She said, well, it was a great shot. It was a perfect shot, but you scored on the wrong goal.
Oh, man. And that does ring true.
So ends my sports career.
Actually, when Braxton tells stories like this in a sermon, one of your illustrations is this stranger than fiction tale about rafting, right?
Yeah, but they've all heard that, surely.
Well, even if they have, you don't have to tell it. I'm just saying. And the first time I heard that, I was like, that's interesting. But I've heard preachers embellish. No, sure enough, there's a newspaper article about the whole incident. And, yeah. And I was like, well, dang, that's everything about that was legit. And that's kind of, that's weird, because it was just it was bizarre. You would think that that's one of those things. Braxton never prayed so hard over a game in his life. Yes, and it didn't work.
I may have prayed that hard when I played a couple of years ago for our church league, but that was only so that I wouldn't die.
Have a stroke or pass out or anything. They didn't let me play basketball much because I kept staying in the lane for longer than the 30-second rule, and so I kept back then, and so they like, you don't know that you have to stay out of that space between the free throw line and if you don't know.
Is this like the most fascinating live stream?
Right. So, everyone's like, good Lord, they are lame.
Well,
go back to the show. Yeah. But no, it's so I stink at basketball. My younger brother. You know what, Brian? Wildcats fan. I don't even know if my high school my junior high. My high school, I went to Parkview in Little Rock, and they were terrible at football. But everyone came to the football games anyway, because I was a marching patriot. I was in the band. I played the trumpet, and our band was probably the best in the city. So everyone came to the football games to watch the band play. But our basketball team was pretty good. But my junior high was Oak Grove High School. You probably remember that. It doesn't even exist anymore. So I don't know if the Maumelle Middle School and High School are the Hornets or not. But yeah.
So no one has any questions for us except football prognosticating over football.
Over football
games. Well, I was looking for.
Kid is he's an Alabama fan, which everyone, it's just popular to hate on Alabama just because.
Well, I was looking on here to see if I could find the news story about the rafting thing, but I can't find it here.
You posted it on Facebook years ago.
Yeah, go find it on Facebook.
Yeah, but it was actually a true story.
I'll tell the rafting story while we're waiting on people to show up and ask us questions. Yeah. So
nobody's going to show up. You don't care about.
So when I was at when I was pastoring in McMinnville, Tennessee, near the Barren Fork River, there was these two guys that were always involved in everything we do at church. Their wives were plugged in and everything, but they just wouldn't become members. And in the Southern Baptist churches, we always push for church membership. And so I just went up to him. I said, what have I got to do to get you guys to join our church? They said, we want to know that whatever church we join, our pastor is enthusiastic about what he believes. And I thought, well, you don't get any more enthusiastic than me. What do I have to do to prove it to you? And they said, well, we like to go kayaking. And they said, we're going to go this Saturday. And if you'll go kayaking with us, we'll join next Sunday. Now, I have a principle for my life when it comes to church growth and reaching people for Christ, and that is, as long as it's not unbiblical or immoral, I'll do it, no matter what it is, if it's going to help. And so I thought, is this immoral or unbiblical? No. So I went, and we got out there, and they told me that it is now Friday night. It had what we would say in Tennessee. It had flumacud, which is Tennessee language for it rained cats and dogs, which is Kentucky language for it rained really hard. And so the river had flooded, and it was going like, 100 miles an hour. And it was in February and below freezing temperatures. And so as a result, it was kind of rough looking out there. And they said, look, listen, no reason to be afraid. It is impossible to tip over and completely fall out of a kayak. Don't believe anyone who tells you anything like that. That is a lie. And so we got into the kayaks. None of us were in our kayaks for more than 30 seconds. We all fell out, and Bryant, one guy, fell out, and he was underwater.
Was he the one who said?
Nearly drowned. I don't know. And then Kyle, he hit his head on a log and floated half unconscious down the river like a drowned cat before finally coming to and grabbing onto a tree. And then me, I was doing the most heroic thing, just like you would all imagine that I would be doing. I was swimming for shore to save myself. And about the time I got out of the water, I heard sirens because someone with a cell phone had called and the emergency services had arrived. We had police from state, county police, everybody, 2 fire trucks and 3 ambulances, one for each one of us. And the news media had arrived. And so we ended up 4 columns wide on the front page of the city paper. And we ended up on the television news. They didn't show us, but they talked about us in all the major cities in Tennessee. And so these 3 idiots that got into the river in those conditions. And so I thought, they're going to fire me at the church. I mean, I really thought this because I'd only been there a year and I was young, and this just is going to look bad. So I didn't exactly lie, but the news media wanted my name. So I told them I did what we Baptists are really good at. I didn't lie, but I took the truth and bent it all out of shape. And so I said, my name is Chris Hunter. I thought they'll never put it together that I'm Christopher Braxton Hunter, the pastor at Cornerstone Baptist Church, 49 Golf Club Road. But little did I know that my buddy who was out there on the tree like a drowned cat, who was now being shoveled off into a police rescue boat, was going on about how he was out there with Christopher Braxton Hunter, the pastor of Cornerstone Baptist Church. And so I said, all right, I'll give you a quote, but you got to put it in exactly like I say it. And I said, we will have a press conference. I make no statement at present, but we will have a press conference at precisely 10:45 Sunday morning at Cornerstone Baptist Church. All are invited to attend. And so many people showed up, you would have thought that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had both got saved when they're giving their testimonies. And the last song they played before I stepped out on the stage was Step Into the Water, Tread Out a Little Bit Deeper.
Oh, man.
So that's the rafting story, the kayak story.
And 100% true, unlike a lot of preachers' tales.
Yeah, I gave the names. You can go find them on Facebook and ask them. Bryant Campbell and Kyle Ward.
Yeah, were y'all the dumb people that got into the water?
I was the desperate man who would do anything to get them in church. That's what was going on.
Yeah. Well, that's out missional. You're missional, right?
That's of course.
Yeah.
Maybe there are questions, but we're not scrolled down far enough.
Yeah. I don't know how this works.
Yeah, look here. Hi, guys.
What's your favorite class to teach? Oh, you go ahead. I have to think about this. I teach so many more than you do.
Without question, my favorite class to teach is the problem of suffering, the problem of evil. I really like that class. And there's a lot you can cover. I don't think people realize it. They think, for those that may not know, the problem of evil is the question of why do bad things happen to people in this world? Why, if an all-loving, all-powerful God exists, why doesn't he stop it? And there's a lot more that goes into that. I mean, for one thing, you go through all the answers that have been given through the history of the church by Christian thinkers as to how, why it is that, what are you doing?
I'm responding to Keith.
But so anyway, there's a lot more that goes in than just those. I mean, you've also got to answer the question of what is often called the atrocities of the Old Testament, bad stuff in like, the slaughter of the Canaanites and things like that. You also get into hell and the various views on hell and how is hell fair. So there's a lot in that class. And I think it's stuff that we usually just give. The questions we give are too glib and basic. And I really enjoy teaching that class. But I also enjoy Apologetics 101. So I don't know.
Yeah, mine would have to be either the hermeneutics class or the New Testament use of the Old Testament class. I can't decide which. Now, the most important class I think I teach is the resurrection class. But as far as which do I enjoy, oh man, I don't know. Contemporary 2 is fun. The apologetics and literature. I don't know. Probably hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is just fun because there's so much to it, and there's so many different things to talk about, and there's a lot to unpack there. And I know that half the students that take it thrive on it, and the other half drown to death because of so much information. But it's really like the floor for everything that you do in the biblical and theological studies. So that's a lot of fun. Popeyes or Chick-fil-A?
Well,
easy.
Now my first impulse, I had a knee jerk to say Chick-fil-A, but here's the thing. For me personally, Chick-fil-A, but
Popeyes isn't bad. But
there's a couple of things we need to consider here. Popeyes is a much crispier chicken. If you like a hard crisp on your chicken, then Popeyes is more of that than Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is kind of more of a soft, sissy, soft kind of chicken. But if you're like me, I prefer the sissy, soft chicken. Now, flavor, I think flavor, it's subjective, I suppose. But flavor purely goes in the Chick-fil-A category. I mean, there's no comparison.
But see, for me, Chick-fil-A isn't, was it Dan Cathy? Let's close on Sunday.
Truett Cathy?
Yeah, Truett, whatever his name is. I don't know. Whoever the people. See, for me, Chick-fil-A was not the evangelical chicken restaurant. When I was growing up, Chick-fil-A was the place you ate at the mall.
Yes.
Okay, so
they were still closed on Sunday.
Yeah, but I had no idea. But you don't go to the mall on Sunday. You go to the mall on Friday nights and Saturdays, where the girls are walking around when you're in junior high and high school.
I went to the mall when my mom took me to the mall.
Right. Well, but you weren't as cool as the rest of us. So
that's probably true.
Well, it's not really cool to just go trolling the mall for girls. That's not cool. But
you did just say adolescents who troll the mall are cooler than people who hang out with their mom.
Right. But back then it was in the
that
late
was your
80s,
perception.
early 90s. We thought we were cool. My friend Ryan Spratt, who was much more good looking than I was, he was able to pick up girls even with a mouthful of food, whereas me, it never really worked. But anyway, so Chick-fil-A was the place you ate at the mall. I had no idea about any sort of political or religious connotations to it at all when I first started eating at Chick-fil-A. So my liking of Chick-fil-A predates all of that.
Plus, if you're on a low carb diet and you go to Chick-fil-A, you can get like 4 grilled chicken strips and like 12 grilled nuggets, and you still come out like 450 calories. It's crazy.
They need to underwrite our program, by the way. But Chick-fil-A, for a few reasons, has nothing to do with me.
The real question should be, if we're just talking about the food and not ideology, because I'm getting uncomfortable. That borders on a theological question, and this is the No Theology Hour. So I would say that I think the question should be Zaxby's or Chick-fil-A. That to my mind, and I still go with Chick-fil-A, but that to my mind is a much more relevant question.
Yeah, Zaxby's has they have the buffalo chicken sandwich, which is phenomenal, and their mushrooms there, the stuffed mushrooms or the breaded fried mushrooms or whatever, their mushrooms. Fantastic. Jason Statham or Dwayne Johnson?
Wait a minute, we skipped one. See, Shelley Scott Christenberry, she's right. If we're considering service here, you can't beat Chick-fil-A service.
No, they're the best.
They're going to have some little kid that's probably breaking the law, too young to be employed, coming out and making sure that you've got everything you need.
Yeah.
Jason Statham or Dwayne, what did you say?
I said Dwayne Johnson. Come on, I'm a bigger rock fan I'm not going to go out and watch The Transporter Part 4 or whatever. I mean,
well, obviously he's more of a mainstream guy.
What is that other movie of Jason Statham besides The Transporter? There was another one. I can't.
I don't know, but
he does those kind of movies, and they're okay, but they're not.
They're both just big dumb action stars. That's
but I like the bigger, dumber action star personally. Now I like Jason Statham, but I'm going to go with The Rock. Plus, he's got the whole wrestling history. Who's more ripped, Jonathon, Braxton?
They've both been good for the bald community.
Well, there you go. Obviously, at present, me way more ripped than Braxton Hunter. But that's not always been the case. So
no, it has always been the case. If by ripped you mean muscular,
yeah.
I've never been that muscular.
Yeah, I probably whatever. At present, I'm more ripped. And it's not that I haven't tried to invite him, as y'all probably heard me repeat several times on the program, that I would love for him to come to the gym, and he won't do it. He says he has a gym at his apartment complex, which, I mean, when you compare that to Planet Fitness, it's equivalent. But yes, I go to the sissy gym. Apparently, that's what I've discovered. Is I go.
Craig Miller says this is better than I ever imagined. Well, throw a question our way. Yeah. Let's see where it goes.
I had friends from high school at Northeast and UALR who worked at McCain Mall Chick-fil-A back when it first opened, but I think it's the only restaurant open in food court. Yeah, probably so.
Malls are going downhill.
Yeah.
All malls.
Well,
now what's popular is those outdoor malls.
The mall he's talking about was almost done until they got this really great movie theater, because McCain Mall is the mall in North Little Rock, and it was.
They've just put in, though, in North Little Rock, or is it North Little Rock? Somewhere over there, there's this big outdoor mall now.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
The McCain Mall, do they still have Mr. Dunderbox? Because that's the best mall food I've ever had. It's like this German, bratwurst place.
There's no way it survived. It's out.
Well, no, it wasn't in the food court, though. He said Chick-fil-A is the only one still left in the food court that was originally there. But if Mr. Dunderbox is still there, that place is phenomenal. I like it.
Mr. Dunderbox, Mr. Dunder Mifflin.
What worldview? Oh, that's an apologetics question.
Dang it.
What is my favorite exercise at the Krav Maga versus pro wrestling? I would have to go with the one that I know of.
I don't know what either one of those things.
I know what pro wrestling is. Come on, man.
Pro wrestling is not real wrestling, right?
Yeah, it's not like talking about Olympic wrestling.
It's like Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's. I mean.
Someone told me there's a Christian version of professional wrestling. My heart died a little when I heard that.
No.
And it's fake, just like the other one is. Eleanor Meadows has showed up.
It's scripted, man. Scripted.
We've got an author in the house.
Yeah. Okay, so what is my favorite exercise? What's your favorite exercise at the gym? The treadmill, right?
Just walking.
Just on.
And then when I get thin enough,
the gym.
And then when I get thin enough that it won't destroy my knees, running. But here's the thing. Let me say this. To this point in my life, I'm happy to say that aside from hair loss, which happened when I was 24 and never got any better or any worse, aside from that.
It got worse.
No. I've shaved it like this. If I grow it, it's the same as it was when I was 24.
Really?
Yep. Church did that to me. But here's the thing.
Those Christians.
But here's the thing. I have no other evidences. I mean, there's visible evidences, but in terms of the function of my body, no negatives, no evidences at all of aging. I can still do everything I ever did. My eyes still are 20/20. Everything's great. But here lately, when I sit down, like to put the thing on the leash on the dog, I've noticed that when I stand up in both of my knees, there is a crack like when Han Solo comes out of the carbonite in Jabba's palace. It's like
once you get over 40.
I don't know what that is. And a few years ago, I had a doctor who said, as long as you can run. Don't worry about it hurting your knees. Just as long as you're able to run, you ought to run. And my wife told me then, don't listen to him.
Yeah.
And I ran for a long time. And she told me when that happened, she's like, that's good. But here's what I don't know. Is that bad that my knees are popping? Somebody can tell me because I feel fine. They don't hurt.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that as I've gone past 40 and left it in the rearview mirror, 42 now, I think. Yeah, 42. And you hear it more in your knees, your back, your shoulders. You just hear cracks everywhere.
Steve Davidson is the man.
I answer my favorite exercise at the gym.
Oh, go ahead.
Hang on. I'm still. Well, I hate leg day like everyone does. So I think my favorite exercise is weird. It's the only time at my age you can get away with turning your hat around, like when you wear your hat backwards like this. So,
or a do-rag. You get away with the do-rag.
I guess I could, but there's an exercise that I do on the pulley where I grab the ropes, and it's a shoulder exercise where you pull it straight to your head. But I like it because when I look in the mirror, I see myself back when I was like 19 and in a rock band, and I used to always wear my hat backwards back in those days.
Well, guess what, pal? If I wore my hat backwards and had a little hair coming out of the bottom, and because I had long hair, I would look like a redneck, number one, and secondly, I would look like I did when I was a teenager.
Yeah, no, but it gives me, it lets me reminisce from my band days when I see myself with my hat on. Except now I have a beard. I used to have one of those 90s goatees, and that's my favorite for the dumbest reason possible, because it's not probably even the best shoulder exercise you can do.
Well, hold up now. Steve Davidson is the man who let me come to his church. I think it's First Baptist, Sellersburg, Indiana, just outside of Louisville. And he let me do my D-Min project there, or at least so far the part of it that I've done.
Where you did the course.
Yeah, and that was really, really helpful, and just a wonderful guy, and I had a great time with him. And so if you're ever in that area, don't go to Al Mohler's church or whatever. Go to Steve Davidson's church. And he asks the question, is Batman a superhero? Batman, by the way, is my favorite comic book character.
Yes, and that he is a comic book character. Is he a superhero? Well, if you put the space between there, he is indeed a superhero, but I do not classify Batman as a superhero if you make that one word, because superheroes have superpowers. So,
well, super is from the Greek supra, which means more than. And so are we saying, is he more than a hero? Well, even if you put the space between, he's not more than a hero. He's a hero. Heroes are heroes, right? So no, he's not a superhero. But if colloquially, he's my favorite superhero. He's my favorite comic book character, because as a kid, I thought all this other stuff is fake, but maybe I could be that guy. Now I couldn't be. Now some of his villains have superpowers.
Dunderbox is gone. Well, there's no reason to go to McCain Mall anymore. Pritchett, do you cut your own hair? Absolutely not. No way. This is Barber College Rule 101. You do not cut your... I've seen people do it, and they mess up every time. The worst are cosmetologists. My mom went to cosmetology school, and my mom and I had a salon together for a while.
What does the beginning of the universe have to do with...
No, I'm talking about...
Not cosmology, cosmetology. I got you.
Cosmetology. My mom went to cosmetology
Dad
school.
Jokes.
Yeah, that was actually a bad one that I'll poo-poo. Anyway, so before I had my own barber shop, I worked in my mom's hair salon. And so these beauticians, because they went to cosmetology school, you want to know the difference between beauticians and barbers? Barbers can cut hair. No, I'm just kidding. Barbers spend all of their time cutting hair and playing with straight razor blades on people's throats. We shave and all that. The reason why cosmetologists can't cut hair as well as barbers is because for the first 500-600 hours, I'm going to get in so much trouble for this, but for the first 500 to 600 hours of their schooling at cosmetology school, they are playing with fingernail paint. Well, we don't do that in barber college with straight razor shaves and haircuts. And so, but we learned you do not cut your own hair. And all these cosmetologists sit there in my mom's shop and they're doing all this stuff, and they're just jacking it up worse. But no, I've never cut my own hair. Now, sometimes I'll take the edgers and go around, like just line up over the ears or something. But I trim my own eyebrows and stuff. But no, I never cut my own hair. You should never cut your own hair unless you're bald and you're just shaving it all off, or you're giving yourself. But don't even give yourself a buzz cut, because I see people, they give themselves a buzz cut, they put the guard on, they buzz their hair off, and yet because they don't know what they're doing, they still have the neck beard going on because they don't know how to line themselves out. And just don't cut your own hair. Go pay a professional barber.
I buzz and shave my hair, and I'm very concerned to make sure there's no neck beard, which is a term I was unaware of until now. I'll tell you this, and I'm only going to report the facts because otherwise it's going to sound somehow politically incorrect. But last year, on September 11th, I was in Antalya, Turkey, at a barber's place.
Mm-hmm.
sitting in a chair, getting my neck shaved with a straight razor.
Yeah, see, I used to
by
do
a
that.
Turkish man.
Yeah, I used to do that for every haircut.
September 11th.
Every haircut in my barbershop, I mean, just instead of getting the edgers and doing that, everyone got a neck shave with the hot lather, just because I had a men's barbershop, and so everyone got that as included in the price. Now, a straight razor shave is more. I guess
Johnny McAllister, I want to tell you that I really appreciate that. I don't know what you're saying now about stuff I don't understand, but I'm sure everyone else appreciates it. But I want to tell you that the other day you said that you had some years ago gone through my book Core Facts with a group, and that they still use it to this day. That really meant a lot to me. That made me feel really good, and I can't believe it's been out long enough that someone could say a few years ago. So thank you, thumbs up.
Okay, so yeah, so all those the Israeli military
Krav Maga. Yeah. I'm gonna say. It sounds like a good rock band name.
Yeah. Whose wife is? Oh dear Lord. Easy, mine.
And mine.
Yeah. You know what? Let me tell you something. It's we both have hot wives, and it's because they both come from Springdale, Arkansas. So for all of you single men who want to be as lucky as Braxton and I are, marry women from Springdale, Arkansas. Right? Yep. Am I right? Yeah.
That's absolutely.
That was interesting to discover when we all started meeting.
And when you go back to visit there, you can go tour the Tyson chicken plant. What is your favorite fictional novel?
Okay, so I'm going to start the controversy here. But I guess part of this, I'm not saying it's of higher literary value, okay? It's not just because it's more, because Tolkien's son has gone and done what Frank Herbert's son Brian has done, which is kind of add on to what Dad has done. But look, I'm just going to say it. Maybe it's because of my childhood attachment to it, but I think Stephen King's The Dark Tower series is the best fiction ever, and metafiction, actually, because it gets meta at the end. And I think it is superior to The Lord of the Rings.
That sounds like something that a man with his hat on backwards would say.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, that's just me. And by the way, just a shout out to my friend John Winters at B.H. Carroll, who is actually doing his dissertation at B.H. Carroll, which is a conservative, Reformed Baptist seminary in Texas. He's doing his on the theodicy involving the Dark Tower series, and I think it's going to be one of the greatest dissertations in philosophy ever.
Do you want both of these are honest answers? But do you want the smart answer or the slightly less
smart answer? Is I like Tolkien, right?
No.
Or C.S. Lewis Chronicles.
No.
That's what
No.
Evangelicals are supposed to. That's what evangelicals.
Oh, I'm not going to say what evangelicals would say.
Good. Tell the truth.
I think The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky is probably the best fiction I've ever read. But my favorite has impacted me the most, changed the way I saw certain things, was probably, and this is going to be a popular item too among geeks like us, but Paralandra, without question.
Yeah. That's great. And you're right, The Brothers Karamazov, I mean, it's one of the great books. I mean, it's phenomenal. Like I said, I wasn't saying highest level of literary. You know?
Well, I am saying, did I enjoy?
It's his favorite, not.
Did I enjoy which of those? Here's what I'm trying to figure out. Which of those did I enjoy more? I don't know. Which of those changed the way I see the world the most? I don't know. Between those two, that is a good. Those two books are powerful.
Yeah. That's why I don't like favorites. I mean, I don't have favorites. Like I can't say that the Dark Tower series is my favorite of all time, but it's one that comes to mind as my, it's like I don't have a favorite food. I either love it or don't. But I did not know that Batman was inspired by Zorro.
Oh yeah, come on.
Well, I'm not the Batman guy.
He even has a bat cave.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not the Batman guru. I like Superman. Braxton House Chronicles. It's done. I'll speak for him. It's done. He's just not giving it to you. He's withholding.
Book 2 was done. The Island was done for a year before I released it, and Adonai 3, The Mountain, has been done for over a year.
No. If you're familiar with the saga of Chinese Democracy by Guns N' Roses, he is having his Chinese democracy ordeal with this third book. He won't step back from the Pro Tools Council. I mean, he just continues to tweak it and edit it and get feedback, and it's going to be.
I thought the first one was okay, and then I liked it a lot. I need to go back and fix some typos and stuff, but I really am pleased with it. I mean, I'm not. You got to understand, I'm not like a fiction writer. I mean, I technically am in that I wrote 3 fiction books, but I'm not trained for this. I probably haven't read enough fiction to know how to do it right. But for an amateur who's trying to do something, I'm really pleased with the first one. The second one to me is my favorite.
Yeah, that's your Empire Strikes
That's
Back.
Empire, and that's what you told me I had to do. The second one has to be Empire, because then the third one is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Nobody cares,
right? And they're gonna buy it because they've got to finish it. They feel obligated to. Jose, I'm gonna start creeping your Facebook photos, and I'll tell you everything you're doing wrong with your hair. Never cut your own hair. Getting a haircut from Prime is now on my bucket list. If you come by, we have a break room here on the campus, and I do cut hair. I cut my coworkers' hair probably once or twice a month in the break room after hours. So I do give haircuts. I have here, scoot back a little bit. I have the stuff right here in my desk for just that occasion. Because yeah.
Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. What is your pet peeve?
Krav Maga.
What is my pet peeve? If I had to pick my number one pet peeve, it is walking into Braxton's office and him say, "You got to check this out," and then I get stuck there for 35 minutes looking at something.
If I had, my biggest pet peeve would be Jonathon coming into my office 2 or 3 times a day, and no matter how many times I show him stupid videos so that he'll leave, he won't.
Yeah, that's true too. Now, yeah, that would be my biggest pet peeve. Have you seen Forever Night series? I have not. Have you? Do you know what that is?
No, but listen, we don't.
Jesse loves the Dark Tower. Yeah, and Jeremy. Yeah,
I like Ted Decker.
Have you ever read the Dark Tower series?
No, but he's asking about Ted Decker
now.
It's on my
shelf in the back.
I like Ted Decker. I don't care if that's unpopular. I like him.
What is Ted Decker?
He's a Christian writer that's kind of got he kind of writes like sometimes. He has a whole series that's, I think, what is it called? The Black, Green, and White or something. It's like a Narnia type thing, but a little more grown up. And then he has stuff that has supernatural elements in it. He's got one that I read where I think it's called Skin, where it all takes place in a virtual reality. He's got one that was made into a movie. I don't think it did very well, called 3. But he's got some
Christian
good stuff.
horror. I mean, if you take Jewish apocalyptic literature and you combine it with medieval Gothic aesthetics, you have that created horror.
It's out there, but it's very difficult to get Christian publishers or any publishers to publish Christian horror or Christian violence or any Christian stuff that has sexual content.
That's a book recommendation, so we'll allow it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Here's where I know people are going to screech and howl. Thomas Oden is a great non-reformed systematic theology book. But if I have to be honest, I do like Garrett's, and I do love Oden's classic Christianity. As far as Molinism goes, I don't know that there's a systematic theology imbued with that perspective. I mean, maybe Geisler would come close. I don't know. It's 4 volume. But to tell you, I have to be honest. Non-Calvinists really need to step their game up when it comes to systematic theology works, because I still enjoy reading the Reformed ones over on the whole. So I've read like Elmer Towns is what they gave us at Liberty and stuff, and I mean, I love his devotional and his spiritual formation stuff. But I mean, systematic theology is meh. I think Geisler's is kind of meh. So I mean, for me, there are very few good, and Garrett's is a great one. But there are, in comparison to how good the Reformed tradition does systematic theology, I just think it's slim pickings for non-Reformed systematic theology. So I want to, if you've already got Garrett, get Oden, and that's about.
But since we're on the subject of systematic theology and academics, you guys could really help us out if you would take a minute after we're done here, or even while we're talking on the live stream, and go over to Trinity's YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and type in trinitysem.edu, and then just subscribe there. That'd really help us out. And, there's a lot of lectures that are free there, I think, for people to watch. And you might go check that out. Also, if you ever think you might be interested in, as a layperson or as a professional minister, studying theology and getting a degree, or even just a certificate program, go ahead and go fill out the little evaluation form on the right-hand side of the screen. It's free. And that way we'll at least have you in the system. And then when we send out emails related to stuff that's going on with the school, you'll know about that. So that'd be helpful.
Johnny makes a comment. You guys should do a show about philosophy found in sci-fi. Well, we've done one show where we talked about what is it about apologetics and philosophy and why they're all sci-fi geeks, right?
Yeah, that was just last year.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of stuff related to that.
That's a good idea. Now, I do have a course that I plan on teaching in the future here at Trinity on that very issue. We're going to be looking at, I think the books were, we're going to look at The Time Machine. We're going to look at The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, just the first one. We were going to look at Childhood's End. We were going to look at some of C.S. Lewis. We were going to look the Cosmic Trilogy. I think Fahrenheit 451 was in there. Brave New World.
A bunch of good stuff.
Yeah, with several sci-fi stuff. I was going to do a course on that, but
also
after that we could do the show.
Also, you can audit classes. Like, say you wanted to take his class, but you're not prepared to become a student yet. Did you know you can audit classes at Trinity for $35? It's a pretty good deal. You get all of them.
Where would you like to holiday if money were no object? If money were no object. I would like to do the whole Greece and Turkey and all that. If money were no object, I would like to go partly where you've been, but also stop off in Greece. So.
I don't know where I'd like to go.
Well, you've been so many places.
I was supposed to right now be in the Netherlands, so maybe the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So Christopher Wright says, I'm subscribed to Trinity, and yes, I do want a degree. Well, give us a call. Are you already is he already a student?
Who?
Christopher Wright. If you're not already a student, then give us a call or fill out that eval.
Yeah. I'm Reformed, so most of mine are Reformed, but I like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if here, this is going to be weird. Where am I at? Okay. That first shelf closest to the that first shelf, that one, let me put that first shelf behind me.
They can't see what's on it anyway.
They can't see it, but that whole first shelf is mostly Reformed books of systematic theologies. Most of my systematic theologies are Reformed as well, and I think you can see, even if you count dispensational. Sorry, Keith. I've got some books for Keith. Keith, you're still watching? They're right. You can see those volumes right there. Those are yours. Those are the ones I'm holding for you. Those are Schaeffer's. They're old editions of Schaeffer's systematic theology that I told you that I would give to you because they're taking up valuable shelf space where better works could be. No, I'm just kidding. They're still talking about Ted Decker, I guess.
I guess so. Well, listen. Oh, Braxton, weren't you doing a documentary? Yeah. So that has been in post-production for almost a year. Like next week, it'll be a year that it's been in post-production. But I'm supposed to have the finished product any day now. And when I do that, it's going to be available for purchase on Trinity's website. We'll put the links everywhere, and you guys can check it out. And I think it's going to be pretty good.
So, yeah, and is it going to be available anywhere else?
Yeah, well, we're going to...
Film festivals? Come on, tell them the whole...
We have the ability, or we have the freedom to offer it through Trinity, just to our people, and whoever knows about it through us. But then the reason they've been taking so long with the post-production is they want to get it in top shape for film festivals, and they're going to enter them into a bunch. I think it was already in the Thessalonica Film Festival, and it's my understanding. Now, I'm not in any control. I'm not in a position of control over that thing at all. But my understanding is that Netflix is in the running. It's possibly be on Netflix and National Geographic and some of these places.
The National Geographic is owned by Disney, and that's going to be going to Hulu.
Yes, I don't.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's part of that whole.
Hey, if Disney wants a piece of me, I'm here. Let's talk Disney.
Well, it's not the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but okay. If Pritchett is in it, I'm not watching it. Well, you're lucky I'm not in it. I was supposed to be, but I had too much going on. We could never get that to happen.
But he did write some of the scripting for. Yeah, he wrote the script for.
I spent a whole couple weeks of my life.
He wrote the script for, or the narration, I should say, for Laodicea and Aspendos and maybe Perge. I don't know.
Yeah, and probably some other.
Pergamum.
No, he was in Turkey on film.
The Bible Brodown guys helped with
and Nick Quint
Smyrna.
Helped. Austin Long.
Nick Quint helped with Laodicea.
Keith Sherlin helped.
Second Yang helped with Ephesus.
But we all were here. We didn't get to go to Turkey like Braxton got to go to Turkey. So I was sitting right here doing my part on the documentary while he was having fun.
Austin Long contributed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, guys, we probably ought to wrap this up.
Yeah. We have time for what? One or two more questions if you put them in now. But we do want to shout out to the Brodown. We want to shout out to Leighton Flowers. We want to shout out to Steve Gregg and the Narrow Path and all the Trinity Commission folks who never go on Facebook Live and do interesting things. But that's fine. And yeah, TrinitySim.edu if you want to audit some courses. It's what, $35? You can see all of our favorite courses, and they're on demand. You can watch the lecture videos whenever you wish. And get $35 is way cheaper than those Logos courses that you get through Faith Life.
And so, you might, let me say this. You might be out there and you'd say, I'm interested in Trinity, but I don't know. I don't know. There's some questions I have that I don't know if it's okay to ask these questions or how somebody might, take these questions. Just talk to us in private Facebook comments or email the school or something, and we can start a conversation. Because really everything that you see of us on Trinity Radio is all made possible because of Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary. And honestly, we want to please God first and everything. But the ministry He's given us most specifically is Trinity Seminary.
Yeah.
And so we do the channel because yes, we do want to see people saved. We do want to answer skeptics. We do want to clarify theology. But on top of that, we want to let people know about this incredible school that we love so much and that allows us to do this.
It really is a one-of-a-kind place. How do you balance your personal life and ministry since they bleed together so often? That's a good question.
I don't consider a difference between my personal life and my ministry. I think my family is my most obvious ministry. And so if I'm not ministering effectively to my family, then I fail in every aspect of my ministry. I actually take issue when people say, I know what they mean, so I agree with the sentiment, but when people say you should put God first, your family second, and your ministry third, I disagree with the whole paradigm in the sense that you should put God first. If you put God first, then you'll do the ministry that He's laid before you. And that ministry begins with your family. And then your professional ministry obviously comes after that. But that's not because you have to categorize it or order it or put it into boxes. It's just that if you love God, that's what you'll naturally find yourself doing.
Okay, how do I balance? Well, I think it was how do you balance work with personal life is probably what he's
I knew what he meant, but I wanted to say something spiritual.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say something. Say something normal. Okay, how do I balance it? It's hard, but I have. Because of the types of jobs that I had previous to coming to work at Trinity, except for like the pastor jobs and stuff, like because I have so much private sector type work experience as well, that's helpful to learn to leave work at work. We do work long hours here, but it's not really a balance so much as I do not look at my TrinitySim.edu emails. I used to, I don't anymore. 5 o'clock, I don't care about Trinity students. No offense, I love you all. On the weekends, I do my best, unless I'm traveling. I shut it off. And I know for pastors, it's so much harder because you've got people you have to be available 24/7. So I know that that's not possible for pastors, but it's not really a balance so much as it is you have to turn off switches. And I know that that's really hard because if you're a pastor and that phone rings, you got to turn that switch right back on, even when you thought you could have it off. But really, that's why I tell people, stop reading theology books and find something, don't always center your life around either school or work or whatever. For me, it's not about finding balance. It's about shutting those off. Sometimes I just want to watch dumb action movies with Dwayne Johnson in it, and I don't want to think about work. And so sometimes, like my son and I, he's at that age now where it's okay for me to let him watch a movie like John Wick. And so, we're going to watch that kind of stuff. And sometimes I just want to be there with my son and watch a dumb action movie. And so the way I balance, so to speak, is I just shut it off. I just shut work off and don't pay any attention to it.
All right. Last question here. Let's see. And would like to know how long it normally takes. And does Trinity offer that? I would like to become a professor in theology and would like to know how long that normally takes. And does Trinity offer that? Trinity offers the kind of degree programs that you would need if you're going to be a professor. And we have had students who have become professors at all kinds of schools. So I think the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, the problem with being the market is flooded with qualified people who could be professors that cannot find work. So if you want to be a professor, find a field that's not related to theology or the Bible. Because those jobs get rarer and rarer, and you have to think about, there are probably between 500 or so, 400 and 500 total people in the U.S. from conservative seminaries graduating with doctorates, PhD or even D-Min, and there's probably less than 50 jobs a year. So you have a tiny job market, and then of course,
but that doesn't include adjunct. I mean, you could be an adjunct.
Well, even those jobs are becoming more and more scarce now too, and plus they're hiring people with MDivs to teach undergraduates with the adjunct positions because they don't have to have a PhD to adjunct at the undergrad level. And so what you have is, so if you have 50 jobs a year and you have 400 people trying, you still have 350. Plus the 350 from the previous year still looking for work, and it just compounds and compounds, and the job market gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Not quite as bad overseas, but I mean, you've got to really pray if you want to get a job as a professor at a seminary.
But it's not all bad. I mean, it is.
If God wants you somewhere, you'll be there. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, just give a realistic answer. Do what I did. You just tell the president of the seminary how incredibly awesome they are every day of their life, and they eventually hire you.
I agree with what Jonathan has said, but there are a lot of, you may not get the position teaching that you would ideally most want, but there are positions out there. There are schools that need adjunct to do adjunct work. There are schools that there are schools there are unaccredited schools that are looking for people. There are all kinds of opportunities if you wait long enough, and if you're willing to not necessarily start off with what you ideally want.
I didn't, when I got onto this road of academia, there was a time, but that time between selling my shop, I guess around 2008, somewhere in there, 2009.
Dead air, Pritchett.
I know. I'm trying to think. My memory's shot. And then 2014, between that period. I mean, it took year. I mean, I was working at LabCorp before I came here. I was driving around picking up specimens because there was, 6 or 7 years.
Your life was terrible.
No, my life was not terrible. I'm just saying the between, what I thought was going to be my whole life cutting hair to, okay, I want to do that. And then for 7 years or so, maybe even long, I can't even remember. I worked all secular jobs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I went to church. I wasn't even, I think I might've had one that pastor's gig that I got fired from that lasted about 7 months. That was bivocational. Right. So there was this long stretch there where, I mean, I had no like outlet for ministry in my life that's what I thought I was going to school to do. And I got out of my previous profession. I delivered pizzas during that time. I tried cutting hair in someone else's shop. It's hard to go from working for yourself in your own barbershop to working for someone. That didn't work. So I had a lot of odds and end jobs. I mean, thank God I had my wife who was, she's financial director of Arkansas Urology back at the time. So, I mean, she could hold us up while I was trying to do that. But there will be seasons. And I think this is a way for pastors too. So pastors, sometimes they lose their job or whatever, their church folds or whatever. And there are seasons for ministers and people in various ministry type vocations where you're not always going to have the ideal situation, but the only thing you can do is just keep working and keep being faithful to God. He'll eventually,
Pritchett,
put you where you need to be.
You was balling in that barbershop.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So says Matt Jackson.
Yeah.
Listen, it's time to go. We got to get off this thing. But listen, it's been fun. We plan on doing stuff like this in the future occasionally. Yeah, we'll let you know like we did today.
Yeah, that's the banner. If you see that banner go up.
And if any of you haven't subscribed to I've said subscribe to the Trinity Sim YouTube channel, but if you haven't subscribed to the one at youtube.com/Braxton Hunter, what's wrong with you? Come on, we need your help. We're almost at 3,000 subsibers, and you could be the person that pushes us over the edge.
Yeah,
or your wife or daughter or somebody could push us over the edge.
Yeah, when we have to do a special thing where we say we were going to sing to my playlist in the car as we take a road trip for our 3,000. We say we're going to do it for 2,500, but that just blew right past us. So. Anyway, thank you for tuning in and sticking with us for an hour and asking very good questions I know some of you wanted trust me, we have another banner that we're going to send up. That's going to be the Ask Us Anything banner that has questions for or about
Bible thought, theology, and apologetics.
But today, this was one of the
tomorrow. By the way, I'll just go ahead and tell you, since you all are here, tomorrow's response video. It'll come out about 10 o'clock Central Standard Time on Saturday. And it is a response to an atheist that is critiquing What Do You Meme? John McCrae over at What Do You Meme? So make sure and watch the YouTube channel for that. And we'll see you next time on Trinity Radio.